Hello and welcome to EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, your weekly dose of the top pro-life news and issues, all from a Catholic perspective. I am your host, Catherine Hadro, in our Washington, D.C. studio, and this week, we are bringing you a special edition of the show. We're going to take a look back at some of our top interviews and our favorite life-affirming stories, from hearing about Kirk and Chelsea Cameron's adoption journey to the Night to Shine event, which celebrates teens with special needs. But before we get to all of that, we just want to remind you about a way you can be involved in the pro-life movement today. Every person can play a part in building up a culture of life, and we provide a way each week with our call to action. If you go to prolifeweekly.com, you will find the most up-to-date, latest way we want to encourage you to take action. It varies week to week based on the pro-life movement's greatest needs. Some weeks it might be writing to your members of Congress. Another week it could be signing a pro-life petition. But to find out and to take pro-life action, simply go to prolifeweekly.com. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo made a major pro-life announcement earlier this year. Days after his announcement, I sat down with him at the State Department to discuss his action to expand a global life-saving policy. Here's our exclusive one-on-one interview with Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, thanks for being with us this morning.
It's great to be with you.
You made a big announcement last week about more strictly enforcing the expanded Mexico City policy. Can you tell us, why is this policy important and why now?
So, Catherine, President Trump has made clear that protecting the life of the unborn is an important part of what this administration is working to do. One of the places that there's risk is that American taxpayer dollars, money that comes from you and from me, will be used by foreign non-governmental organizations in a way that supports abortion or abortion-related services. We want to do everything we can to make sure that that does not happen. And so what we announced was a way to prevent there being backdoor from loopholes, from subcontracting in a way that would present the risk that there would be one more child that didn't come to life.
And the second part of your announcement concerned fully enforcing the Siljander Amendment, which prohibits U.S. funds from being used to lobby for or against abortion. Can you clarify, is this the first time this law is being fully enforced? And where have you seen abuses of this law?
So this is a substantial step. We want to make sure that in everything we do, in the way we contract, in the way we communicate, every organization to which United States taxpayers provide funds understands their obligation, their duty to ensure that there's not the promotion of abortion anywhere in the world. And the Siljander Amendment has been on the books for a long time. This administration is determined to ensure that it is fully enforced.
And how are you planning to fully enforce the Siljander Amendment abroad?
So there'll be lots of ways. First, it's to communicate. Just as with any enforcement mechanism, when organizations understand their obligations, most of them will comply. They'll want to do so selfishly because they want to continue to receive those resources, but they want to do things right, so we have to communicate the requirements that they have. The second thing is where we find an organization that's not behaving appropriately, acting in a way that is inconsistent with what they've committed to, that is, they'll have a contractual obligation, we'll pull that money.
Planned Parenthood has called the Global Protect Life policy the global gag rule. Can you clarify, Mr. Secretary, does this pro-life policy censor doctors abroad, as abortion advocates claim?
Not at all. We know the First Amendment here in the United States. We're doing nothing to deny anyone the ability to speak about a subject that they deem important, indeed, even if they disagree with this administration's views. What we're simply saying is that the American money, American policy is going to push back. We're going to do our level best to ensure that the least amongst us, the unborn, aren't, with U.S. taxpayer dollars, aborted.
And what role does the State Department play in upholding a pro-life agenda abroad and upholding the sanctity of life?
So the Mexico City policy that was originally put in place by President Reagan, now several decades back, President Trump has expanded upon. And the State Department has a real role in that. You see that in the announcement that we made. Our team around the world, the resources that Congress provides, that with monies that come from the American taxpayers, we have an obligation to ensure that it's spent in a way that is consistent with President Trump's objectives.
What has President Trump said to you about upholding life abroad?
Yeah, he's made it clear. That's the mission.
Thank you for your leadership, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Thank you.
Great to be with you, Catherine.
Thank you to Secretary Pompeo for that interview. From politics to pop culture, this year the pro-life movie Unplanned was a success at the box office, landing within the top 5 films opening weekend. The movie is the true story of Abby Johnson's conversion from Planned Parenthood director turned pro-life leader, and she was portrayed by actress Ashley Bratcher. As it turned out, Bratcher had an unplanned story all of her own, and she shared about it on EWTN Pro-Life Weekly for her first public interview on the topic. Take a look. Ashley, you shared recently on your Facebook page a little bit about your own unplanned story. Can you tell us a little bit about that and that journey?
Yeah. I spent a lot of years keeping it a secret because I wasn't married and I had this sense of shame. And doing this movie, I thought, wow, you know, this is something that would really empower a lot of people to share and say, I chose life, and I did. I was really young, and I remember one of the first responses I got when I told someone I was pregnant was, wow, really, you're gonna throw away your career? And I remember just thinking, this is not what's going to happen for me. That I know that I can pursue my career and have a successful, very happy life with a child. Yeah, I was scared. I was young. I didn't know how things were going to go. I didn't have a job. I wasn't married. But I knew that there was this incredible life growing inside of me. And I just remember calling out to God during that time and saying, God, what is my purpose here? I don't understand. I don't understand what I'm doing here. And it was during that time that I finally understood God's love, the Father's love, because if I could love this little tiny person growing inside of me that much, how much more God must love me. And my son, he saved me. He really did. I wasn't walking in my faith. I wasn't spending time with Jesus like I really wanted to. I was kind of in a period of rebellion, and I was selfish. I never thought I wanted to have children. And he taught me to love unconditionally and what it meant to put someone ahead of myself. And having my child empowered me because it made me want to be a better person. It made me fight for something. And it just taught me so much about life because I chose to have him.
And he's 9 years old now?
He's 9 years old.
That's incredible. You're a beautiful son. So, you know, just listening to your story, Ashley, there's another woman out there who's listening and she has an unplanned pregnancy of her own. What would you want to share with her?
That there are people who will love you and stand by you, that you may think that this is the end of your life or the end of your career, that's just a lie. That is a lie that society has perpetuated right now to make you believe, and it's something Planned Parenthood is really good at doing, is saying you can't be successful and have a child. You can't have a fulfilling career or a happy life and have a child. And what abortion does is it preys on that vulnerability. It makes women believe that they really can't, when in reality, having a child is one of the most empowering things that you can do.
Well, thank you for sharing your witness. It seems you are speaking boldly on the life issue, that you're not afraid to speak out. Have you always been that way, or has this role in this film kind of impacted that?
No, this role has definitely impacted that, because in doing this role, I have gained knowledge and insight, something that I didn't have before. And when you have the education and you understand what's really happening, you have a social responsibility to make your voice heard and to make sure that other people understand what's happening. And it really gave me a firm stance to say, this is what I believe, this is what I now know, and I wanted to fight for it. And so I don't have any regret. I don't feel scared in speaking my faith and how I feel about abortion. And other people, even pro-choice people, have come to me and they've said, I'm not sure I agree with you, but I respect you. And even some of my friends that were firmly, just adamantly that a woman should have the choice at any time have now said to me, well, I believe in restrictions. I believe that it's only okay up to this point. And I think that's a start. That's a start, that you're recognizing this.
I'm grateful to Ashley for being so vulnerable and sharing her personal story with us. Another EWTN Pro-Life Weekly interview that's marked by vulnerability and courage is my interview with Kristin Hansen. Kristin Hansen is the widow of the late J.J. Hansen, a husband, father of 2, and Marine Corps combat veteran who died in late 2017 from an aggressive brain tumor. When J.J. was diagnosed, he was given 4 months to live, but he outlived his prognosis by 3 years. Before his death, JJ Hansen became a face against assisted suicide, and his legacy of life and love is carried on by his widow and family today. Here's part of my interview with JJ's widow, Kristin Hansen. You and JJ decided to be a witness against assisted suicide. Can you tell us about why you two made that decision to fight this battle?
You know, this wasn't an issue that JJ or myself would have been involved in before that. Talking about death is not easy, and most of us, our initial reaction is we don't want to talk about it. And assisted suicide is very sensitive because the way it's portrayed in the media is that this is someone's personal choice. Who are you to question that and try to take that choice away from them? And it's very easy to be fearful of that and not want to talk about it. But going through what we went through, it was about 5 months into JJ's diagnosis, after a short period of a few weeks where he was not doing well. Physically, emotionally, the treatments were taking a toll on him. He had become very depressed. We didn't know it at the time. We were there with him, loving him, supporting him, but it wasn't until later he shared that he had some very dark days where he questioned everything. He wondered, is this worth it? If I'm gonna die anyway, why am I fighting? Am I too much of a burden to all of you? He felt like it was a burden for us to care for him, even though we didn't feel that way, of course. And it was after that, shortly after that, when we saw Brittany Maynard on TV. Right. And we saw how assisted suicide was being portrayed. It was this message of hopelessness that no matter what you do, this is the compassionate and dignified way of dying. And if you're a patient like JJ, he had the exact same cancer as Brittany. There was no hope of living. And at that point, JJ was going into remission and he was responding to the treatment. So we were just shocked. We were fearful for all the other patients who would see that, hear that message, and give up hope. And we knew, going through it, that the most important thing a patient or their caregivers could have is hope. Even if it's just hope for that day. You know, hope is so important to all of us.
As a caregiver, as someone who loved and cared for someone who was dying from cancer, can you share with us what those last years meant to you?
Oh my goodness. I am so thankful for each and every day that we had. JJ's motto became "every day is a gift." And that was so true. Each and every day we had together was something I treasure now. We were able to make so many memories with James, our older son. He got to know who his daddy is. We made videos, we took pictures, we spent time together. And that's the most important thing any of us can have, is time. But we were also very fortunate to have our other son, or our younger son, Lucas. He was an unexpected gift in the journey, and James is just such a doting, loving older brother. And every time I look at them together, it gives me hope.
What a gift. And yet we are seeing this propaganda and this messaging that physician-assisted suicide is some form of a medical treatment. Is that dangerous?
Oh my goodness, it's so dangerous. And ultimately that is why we decided to become involved, because JJ, having worked in politics and in state government, he saw that people weren't being made aware of the very real dangers of when assisted suicide becomes public policy. You may, in theory, agree with this idea of personal autonomy and choice, that if this decision truly does not impact others, they should have the right to do that. But he saw that in reality, that's not the case. When you treat a patient with assisted suicide, it becomes medical care and medical treatment, and that impacts all of us. We have a profit-driven healthcare system, and one person's decision does impact us. And what really scares me as a caregiver is that we are seeing in states where this is legal, in California and Oregon specifically, we have some cases where patients who have curable cancer, not even terminal cancer like JJ, their insurance companies are denying them coverage for treatment, which makes them terminal then, and then offering assisted suicide instead.
What a powerful witness. When we come back.
People often ask me, like, is it different with your biological children and your adopted children? But once a baby is placed in your arms, or a child of any age, and you're their mom or you're their dad, I just think there's a special bond.
Actors Kirk and Chelsea Cameron open up about their adoption journey. Stay tuned as our special edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly continues after this break. Welcome back to a special edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly, where we are looking at some of our top and favorite pro-life interviews and stories. I am your host, Catherine Hadro. We turn now to a Hollywood power couple who, each in their own right, are passionately pro-life. Actors Kirk and Chelsea Cameron, who first met on a TV sitcom studio set, are married with 6 children, 4 of whom are adopted. I sat down with the Camerons in January when they were in Washington, D.C. for the March for Life. Here's our interview in which we discuss faith, family, and their adoption journey. Kirk and Chelsea Cameron, thanks so much for taking some time to be with us today.
My pleasure.
So first off, you all have 6 children, 4 of whom are adopted, and you adopted your 4 children before your 2 biological children. Is that right?
Yes, yes.
How did you two come to make that decision together?
Well, I was adopted also. My brother's adopted, so I've always had a passion for adoption. And I think we wanted our adopted kids to feel like they were our first choice. I feel so grateful for my life and my family, and so I don't know that we knew we would adopt 4 in a row.
No.
Yeah.
They came quick.
Yeah.
About a year apart.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
all 6 are a year apart, and so we formed the family pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah. So that's just how it happened for us. Our first 4 came pretty quickly.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
And with adoption being such a big part of your family, what do you think are some of the misconceptions out there facing adoption, misconceptions you'd like to just break?
People often ask me, like, is it different with your biological children and your adopted children? But once a baby is placed in your arms, or a child of any age, and you're their mom or you're their dad, I just think there's a special bond that does come straight from God. Doesn't necessarily have to come from your body, So it's been an incredible journey. We always said you sort of forget who's adopted and who's not adopted. It's like your family.
Right.
So.
Right. That's beautiful.
Yeah, we do say that every once in a while. We forget which ones are adopted and which ones aren't. And it's been such a gift for us to have a family this large and to have it come together in such diverse ways. We also have a diverse family. So we have multiracial family. And so that makes our family just this family of different colors, of different backgrounds, different talents, different gifts. And it's really a beautiful mosaic of things that God brings together for our family. And I want to also point out too that adoption, I really think, is at the very heart of God. You think of, as Christians, we can't overlook the fact that Jesus himself was adopted, right? So Joseph adopts Jesus as his son. You think of Moses, who is an adopted child. And as Christians, we're adopted is actually the word that's used in Scripture to talk about the way that we are brought into God's family. Regardless of our background, regardless of the color of our skin, regardless of our religious upbringing, we're adopted into his family by faith, and we become his children 100%.
Yeah, we're meeting here the week of the March for Life, and you both are hosting the Save the Storks Gala. And I've spoken at CareNet conferences before. It seems like you both have a heart for these pregnancy resource centers and just being there for women in unexpected pregnancies. Why is that important?
For me, it's a story of my life. There was somebody who stepped in and, I'm from a teenage mom, all my kids also. And there's that fear, I think, that when someone says, you can do this, and I'm going to help you do this, and you feel so much gratitude for that person who counseled them and helped them to choose life, that I've always prayed to be involved in this movement or this cause, this mission. And so when storks came across our path, I knew that this was right at the heart of what I wanted to do. So I'm honored. I'm thrilled. I haven't really in the past been able to travel much because I've been raising 6 kids.
Right.
Yeah, so I have some drivers at home now.
Right.
So yeah, so it's really a new season for me to be able to get out and share and help support this cause. So it's very exciting.
And this is your first March for Life, is that right? How do you feel? How does it feel to be here in DC?
Yeah.
No, we've never actually been to one of them.
And it's very personal for me. Whenever I see people come together for this cause, I'm so thankful personally to them.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Me too.
Yeah.
The 7 most important people in my life, my wife, who is adopted, our 4 adopted children, and our 2 natural-born children who wouldn't be here if my wife had not been adopted, if she had been aborted. So this is very important and exciting to us.
One decision can impact so many lives and so many generations. My final question, Chelsea, really is to you. If there's an expectant mother who's watching this, considering adoption,
Yes.
as an adopted daughter yourself,
Yeah.
what would you want to tell that woman?
Well, I told my son Jack when I first time I talked to him about adoption, he was about 4 or 5. I explained to him that God had placed him in a really, really special woman's tummy. He placed Jack with somebody so amazing who loved him, who took care of him for 9 months, fed him and loved him, but also knew that, for my story, was that it was not time for her to be a mom. But she listened to the voice of God. What I would say is the pregnancy is a miracle. It's not a problem. There are people who could help you through, and there are, whether you choose to raise a baby, God's grace and His help and His strength will be with you, and there's people to help you in this journey. But I think I would just say that to just breathe and say, you know what, this is a gift from God, and I'm going to be a part of giving someone life.
Well, I hope that message reaches the ears that need to hear it. Kirk and Chelsea Cameron, thank you for your witness.
Thank you.
Thank you. Great
so
to talk
good to
to
be
you.
here. Thank you.
Thank you to Kirk and Chelsea Cameron for sharing your family story with us. All too often, it seems people with disabilities or special needs are pushed to the margins, brushed aside. But one ministry literally rolls out the red carpet for young people with special needs so they are front and center and have a night to shine. While this appears to be a sachet down the runway, these young people are actually making their grand entrance into prom.
Yeah!
For its 5th consecutive year, the Tim Tebow Foundation held its worldwide Night to Shine event the Friday before Valentine's Day. Hosted by more than 600 churches across all 50 states and 24 countries, Night to Shine is a prom night experience for young people with special needs. All Saints Catholic Church in Virginia's Arlington Diocese was one of those churches, where it's estimated more than 100 local guests attended, with even more people coming to volunteer.
It's our favorite night of the year. This is only our 2nd year doing it, but it has been awesome.
Night to Shine is the total prom package and beyond. Guests get to begin with a spin in a limousine.
Ah, I seen that.
Oh my gosh, they changed color. What?
I'm excited, more excited.
After a limo ride, Night to Shine literally rolls out the red carpet, where these special guests are greeted by their own positive paparazzi. Young women are then pampered by makeup artists. There are shoe shining stations set up for the gentlemen. And in true prom tradition, everyone receives either a corsage or boutonniere.
I felt great tonight.
Each guest is paired up with a buddy volunteer.
I just have to show up and, put on a smile, make sure my buddy has a good time. That's all I'm here for.
After posing for pictures, the real party begins.
I come here tonight to dance and have a party, have a good time, have fun. And let's party!
What about the dancing?
Me!
Me too.
Me too.
From the dance floor and beyond, it's obvious these guests with special needs can teach us all some lessons.
This event really promotes the culture of life. It really celebrates life, and it celebrates everybody's gifts in all different ways. So a lot of the attendants here are very gifted in ways that we aren't, and it's so great that here we're all together. We're a community, and it really brings everybody together. So
this sister pair came to volunteer as buddies, inspired by their own sibling with special needs.
Well, our sister has special needs, and she really just brings so much joy to our lives, and our lives would be like so much worse if she wasn't here. And so just being in a room and a community filled with all of these really special people just makes my heart just like overwhelmed with joy. You have your own crosses in your life, and these people have a way bigger cross than you, but they're so much more joyful, and because they carry it and they just lead you to Jesus.
It seems at times that Night to Shine is more of a gift to the volunteers than to the attending guests.
Once you do it once, people want to get involved. So we had a huge number of people. We didn't even have to go searching for volunteers. They flooded us. Once they heard it was coming again, they ran to us.
What does a Night to Shine mean to you?
It's awesome. But I love seeing everyone having so much fun. It's just an awesome time.
The night's highlight is always when the football player founder makes a special video announcement.
What's up, guys?
And every guest is crowned as king or queen of the prom. A reminder of how beloved they all are. What does a Night to Shine mean to you?
Being beautiful. Fun. Be beautiful.
When these guests are given the royal treatment, it's ultimately the King of Kings who shines through. That does it for this special edition of EWTN Pro-Life Weekly. Until next week, I'd love to hear from you. Send us a note with questions, ideas, comments at prolifeweekly@ewtn.com, or find us all over social media. Just search for EWTN Pro-Life. I look forward to seeing you here again next week. And remember, life is a gift. Your life is a gift. God bless.